We should always take the words of the president seriously. I know there are a lot of MAGA supporters and influencers who will try to downplay the rhetoric that the president says every day, but we should care about what the most powerful person in the world says on a daily basis. Recently, Trump did an exclusive interview with NBC with Tom Llamas, and I won't subject you to the entire interview. You can go ahead and go watch it. It's all on YouTube. It's about 50 minutes. But we're going to go over some really interesting clips that caught my eye. Just wanted to give some commentary on, what an average working class person thinks of the most powerful man in the world saying some of the most ridiculous things I've ever heard. We'll first start with Trump talking about recent ICE tragedies and what his response is. This is probably the most divisive issue in the country right now and what is going to fuel a lot of campaign rhetoric on both sides leading up to the midterm elections. We've seen Republicans condemn Trump and Department of Homeland Security. Tom Tillis, Republican senator from North Carolina, Lisa Murkowski, multiple Republican congressional members. They've all called for Kristi Noem to resign. And if there's bipartisan support for a sitting secretary of a federal agency to leave her post due to incompetency, that really signals to you what the rest of the country feels like. Typically, a Republican doesn't defect against Trump unless people in their district are demanding that or people in their state. And we know that this is a divisive issue right now. Surely Donald Trump wants to calm down the flames, right? Let's hear what he has to say to Tom.
You mentioned Renee Good and Alex Peretti not being angels. Do you think any of that justified what happened to them, though?
No, I don't. It should have not happened. It was a very sad, to me, it was a very sad incident, two incidents. And, they mentioned the one now, they don't mention.
So now it's very sad, right? When you see national polling that shows that this tragedy should have never happened. Because remember what happened initially. An hour after Renee Good was killed, ICE and Department of Homeland Security labeled her a domestic terrorist. A domestic terrorist intending to kill multiple ICE agents with her vehicle. Now it's sad because he sees a majority of the country views it as horribly disgusting. Same thing with Alex Preddy, a man who before, just 11 days before he was killed, also had an altercation with ICE agents. He kicked a car and broke a tailgate. He escalated tensions with ICE. ICE tackled him to the ground. He had his weapon on him and he didn't discharge it. That's because Alex Preddy was not trigger happy. He was angry that his neighbors were being kidnapped and stolen by ICE agents. He was angry that despite all of Minneapolis demanding that ICE leave their communities, ICE continued to double down and terrorize the people that live there. That is why Alex Preddy was so pissed off. Not just because he was a disgruntled, not an angel, as Donald Trump said. He was a vehement defender of his neighbors and the community that he lived in. And now it's a sad tragedy. Even though he was killed, he was shot 6 times into his motionless body. There's a total of 10 shots, 4 of which killed him, 6 of which were just for fun for the ICE agents that were shooting him after. Disgusting, absolutely insane. And there's a reason why he's backpedaled on all of this rhetoric. He recognizes that a majority of Americans agree that it was disgusting.
And the other, well, I think they were both sad. And who feels worse about it than anybody? The people of ICE. They're strong.
Yeah, the people who feel the worst about these disgusting tragedies, it's not like the families of the victims, it's the ICE agents. They feel really bad about it. The guys that shot 6 times into Alex Preddy's motionless body, they feel really terrible about all of this. Dang.
Because we're dealing with hardened criminals.
Right.
We're dealing with people, happen.
You mentioned Renee Good.
So it's clear he's still defending ICE agents. He's downplaying the seriousness of their crimes. He's saying that they have genuine empathy over the innocent civilians that they're shooting and killing in the street. Totally. Is he changing course, though? Is there any federal policy that's going to be adapted? It seems to be he's signaling that here. An interesting way to change course, considering all of the rhetoric that we've heard previously. Take a listen to this clip.
One thing I say to my people, we do a good job, we don't get credit for it. I say they have to ask and they have to say please. When a city is
Who
going
has to ask and who has
the
to say
mayor
please?
or the governor, I don't want to go and force ourselves into a city, even if their numbers are terrible. Like, for instance, I got a call from Jeff Landry, governor of Louisiana. He said, we have a big problem. Could you go in and help us with well, let's see, certain sections. I mean, to be honest with you, certain sections of the state, beyond their famous, beautiful city, certain sections of the state. We have done, not only in New Orleans, we've done a really great job in Louisiana, but I was called. I want to be called. Chicago, we could solve the Chicago crime.
Well, on that question, which cities are you headed to next?
We have 5 cities that we're looking at very strongly, but we want to be invited. we will sometimes call the governors and
Are
say,
they cities like
you going to
Chicago,
invite-"
Philadelphia? Are these the cities?
We could straighten out the crime in Chicago. We've already brought it down 25% just by being there. We could have Chicago be a safe city, just like DC is a safe city, just like all of these places that we've gone to. And I look forward. You know, I didn't campaign on that.
Yeah.
I campaigned on law and order, but I didn't think I'd be going into individual cities and making them safe.
Anything else you can tell us about the 5 cities? The 5 cities, anything else? So Americans
well,
are ready?
We'll be announcing them very quickly, but we could do something. As an example, I was called by people. San Francisco said, please, we have a Democrat mayor. He's trying very hard. Would you, friends of mine that live there, it's got crime problems. Would you let him do the job and not come in? Let's see how it works. I said, look, I can do it much quicker, much faster. Don't forget, we remove criminals. We took over 2,000 hardcore criminals out of Washington, D.C. If we didn't do that, 2% of the people create 90% of the crime. Think of that, 2%. So you have a criminal, because it's over and over again, 2% create 90% of the crime. We took out 2,000 people, more than 2,000 people out of Washington, D.C., and we now have a safe city.
Where was this Donald Trump a year ago? You're telling me that you're only going to go into states where you're explicitly asked by the mayor or governor in order to go into. That's not what's been happening for the past year. What happened when you went into Chicago and made highlight reels raiding apartment buildings of migrants who have no violent crime record? Why'd you go into Minneapolis and start Operation Metro Surge when Tim Walz and Jacob Fry specifically said, we don't want ICE in our communities? Where was that in Los Angeles when there were mass demonstrations on end last summer with the most intensive raids that we've seen in Southern California? What about Ventura County with agricultural fields and agricultural conglomerates who have said, hey, actually, let's not take all of our workers. This is necessary to have effective produce for the rest of the country. None of this makes sense. It's not lining up. And Donald Trump could be honest and say, you know what, I'm changing course because of public opinion. It's very clear that a majority of Americans think that ICE is going too far. And if you look at other polling from Axios, 74% of Democrats want ICE abolished, and 52% of independents also want ICE abolished. So this is a majority of people that are not Republicans that are saying, hey, not only is ICE going too far, we don't think the agency has a right to exist. But he's not doing that. He's not saying, I got it wrong, I'm going to change course. He's trying to retcon his own policy. We've only ever gone into places where mayors and governors have explicitly asked us to go. Okay, so you're just going to lie to us straight to our face. Nice, got it. Speaking of lying, I thought this one was really funny. Tom Llamas asks him about economy poll numbers.
I'm getting very good polls on crime prevention, on law and order, and on the border. I have to. And I'm starting to get great polls on the economy, which I think
the
is
polls on the economy aren't they're not great.
They should be great.
They should be. So
People
why aren't they?
don't know.
If you believe that,
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, look,
The polls on the economy are great. Actually, Mr. President, they're not great. Well, they should be. They should be great. Why do you think they're not great? I don't know. Hey, I don't know, man. This is the best economy we've ever seen. It is so funny getting into his mind. And any like little pushback, it really depends on who the person is that gives him pushback. Because sometimes he just attacks. Like he immediately gets on defense and he's like, oh, you're fake news then if you're lying. And then sometimes he just immediately folds. He said, we're getting great polls on the economy. No, you're not. Yeah, you're right. We're not. I don't know. They should be. They should be great polls. It's hilarious. It's hilarious, but also scary. I mean, this is the most powerful person in the world who can't have consistent logic. He's literally flailing in front of the American people on national television, but it is what it is. We did a previous video on Courier that goes over Donald Trump's new plan for the federal government to step in to take over elections. So please make sure to subscribe down below and watch that video. But let's hear what Donald Trump has to say about election integrity and whether or not he will accept the midterm elections if they don't turn out his way.
will you trust the results of the midterms if Republicans lose control of Congress?
I will, but if the elections are honest. Look, I want the last one that wants to complain. I just had a great election. They say one of the greatest elections, you will agree, ever. Won all 7 swing states, won 84% of the counties in America. That's why the map is all red. We just had a great election. I believe there was cheating. I think there was cheating.
Well,
in this
speaking
election,
of counties,
but
what are you doing in
it
Fulton
was too
County?
big to risk.
Speaking of counties, what is
Well,
happening? Will you trust the results of the midterm?
So even in his ego-fueled rant about how great his election was, they were still cheating. There's always cheating. He said in 2016 there was cheating. He should have won the popular vote, but he didn't win the popular vote. 2020, obviously, he said there was cheating. He won the election. For sure, he won the election, even though every state audit and Republican judicial court said that he didn't win the election. Somehow he still won the election. In 2022, the midterm elections, he didn't win as many as he should have for the seats. I think they only had a 6-seat majority, which is unheard of for an incumbency. That was a rigged election. 2024, the one that he just won, there was still cheating. There was still a rigged election. We see the pattern of behavior. He says he's the last person that wants to complain. That sounds like a lot of complaining when every single federal election you complain about. Kind of seems like that's your whole thing. That might be like your character or personality trait.
On January 21st, 2029, do you see any scenario where you are still president?
I don't know. It would be interesting, but wouldn't it be terrible if I agreed
This is
with,
spitting in
if
the
I
face of the
gave you answer
Constitution.
that you're looking for? It would make life so much less exciting, right? It would be so much less exciting. But I only do this for one reason: make America great again, and that's what we're doing. We're making America great again, greater than ever before. Our country is greater than ever before.
It's not. America is not greater than it ever was if the leader can't even say that he abides by the Constitution. The Constitution is supposed to be the framework, the legal document that surrounds all legal practices within the United States. It should be an easy yes to just say, oh, of course, the 22nd Amendment explicitly says I can't run for a third term. What does he mean by it would remove all excitement? Who's excited by the idea that the president might just completely shred the Constitution and run for a third term? Make it make sense, please. I know most Republicans say, I wish he would stop saying that. None of it makes sense. And then others that are eternally online is like, oh, he's just trolling. He's trolling. That's the excuse that he's using in order to try to get that actually done. Oh, it's entertainment. It's exciting. I don't want to take away the excitement for when I run again for a third term and spit in the face of the Constitution. It's bullshit. But he's running again because remember, he's a very, very smart man.
I feel great. I mean, physically and mentally, I feel like I did 50 years ago. It's crazy. Now, there'll be a time when I won't be able to give you that answer, but that time hasn't come. I do. I think it's very important. I've done more physicals. I take physicals just to give the report out.
Yeah.
I take cognitive physicals. So I do a cognitive mind test, okay? And a lot of people wouldn't be able to do very well. Not easy. You get to those last questions. I've aced. I've done 3 of them. No other president has agreed to do them. I do them because I have no problem with it because I'm 100%.
Cognitive mind tests. I take mind tests. Do you know what the cognitive mind test he takes? I always am amused by how much he brags about this cognitive test that he took. This is a test to determine whether or not somebody has dementia. It is for the physical and mental capabilities of one of the hardest jobs in the world, which is being the most powerful person on the entire planet. And the mind test asks you, is this a giraffe or is this a zebra? And you get the question right when you point out which one's the zebra. It is wild to me that he is bragging about this. Let me just show you a couple questions from this cognitive test. I got to pull it up. You ready? Are you ready to see the adept fitness of Donald Trump? Can you guys believe that he can copy cubes? He can also draw a clock, 10 past 11. He can put his name and his sex at the top with the date, and he gets to label which animals these are. Look at how the genius of the president. This is a very hard test. It gets hard at those later questions. This is sad. This is sad that he's bragging about this. This is like bragging that you know the ABCs. I say ABC's the quickest, quicker than ever done before. I go A to Z. A to Z within 25 seconds. Nobody's seen it like that. Crazy. Also, the fact that he continues to bring it up, is he signaling that he takes like cognitive tests like all the time throughout the year? Did he just take this one test that one time and that's what he's bragging about? Or does he have to take multiple because he's showing very clear signs of mental decline? Like, either way, this is not a flex, dude. It's really, really sad. Finally, let's take a clip of him talking about the Epstein files. For those that don't know, Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton have both agreed to testify in front of Congress regarding their involvement in the Epstein files. That is calling out Donald Trump's bluff because Bill Clinton is willing to do that. Donald Trump will probably also have to testify for what he is involved in within the Epstein documents. And he's not too happy about that. Let's just say the same guy, surprisingly, right? The president who's tried to block any release of the Epstein files, who called it a hoax, who said there are no Epstein files, who said that his supporters are stupid for continuing to ask that, said that you're no supporters of mine if you keep demanding the Epstein files because they're a Democrat hoax. We got to focus on the country. We can't talk about the Epstein files. Epstein, 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 Epstein. For him to continue to say that probably signals that he doesn't want these files out. And the only reason why they are getting released is because he was forced to by Congress. It was a bipartisan measure because of the overwhelming support amongst the American people of being more transparent with what wealthy people are involved in a lot of these disgusting sex crimes. And now that Bill Clinton is testifying, Donald Trump doesn't like that too much. So, funny enough, he's coming to Bill Clinton's defense. Let's hear him talk about it.
Epstein. NBC News broke the story today. I don't know if you saw it, that the Democrats are already saying if you bring President Bill Clinton and he has to testify, we're bringing President Trump. What do you say to that?
I think they might say that, but they've already brought me. See, I've been brought. They had me indicted many, many times. Many, many times.
And the president had some surprising thoughts about former President Bill Clinton.
It bothers me that somebody's going after Bill Clinton. See, I like Bill Clinton. I still like Bill Clinton.
What do you like about him?
I liked his behavior toward me. I thought he got me. He understood me. He was the one that said very famously that you don't want to run against Trump when there were 18 people. It was 18 people, including me, total. And he kept telling them, you don't want to run against Trump. Run against anyone. Don't run against Trump. And Hillary sort of laughed at him.
Interesting bromance between Donald Trump and Bill Clinton. Didn't expect that one. I haven't heard any like allegations or anything. Maybe you can like Google search Donald Trump, Bill Clinton, Bubba. I haven't heard anything about it, but yeah, there might be something there. But yeah, for Donald Trump, one of the most right-wing presidents in modern American history, to be defending one of the most recent Democrat presidents is kind of interesting. Don't know why he's coming to Bill Clinton's defense, unless it's to protect his own ass. And hopefully, Bill doesn't actually have to testify. So Donald Trump doesn't have to testify. Pretty interesting. A lot of interesting content from the president of the United States in that interview. If you want to watch the full thing, it's on NBC's YouTube page. Just look up Tom Llamas and Donald Trump full interview. It's about 50 minutes long. But I wanted to go over a lot of these really important clips because they touch on important issues right now across the country. Donald Trump's involvement in the Epstein files, him saying that the federal government needs to take over all elections moving forward, the ICE raids and how much controversy that stirred up amongst the American people. A lot of this is very important for us to go over and dissect how the president views the most pressing issues of the day. It's very clear that he is downplaying the atrocities that are committed by ICE. He's very worried about what's going to happen with Epstein investigations, specifically, seems like his involvement. And it seems like he's not taking anything off the table when it comes to running for a third term or nationalizing elections or continuing the lie that he lost or he won the 2020 election. Watch the full interview, take away it from yourself. But what we can see is a man who's clearly unhinged and who continues to brag about a cognitive test that most 5-year-olds are able to pass.